What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Halving Report podcast. I am your host, Brad Mines. Today, we're welcoming Daniel Carlin onto the show. Daniel is the organizer of the Canadian Bitcoin Conference, which I had just attended just a few weeks ago in Montreal. And so awesome to have him on here to give us a rundown of, how this all came about and, general thoughts on Bitcoin. So thanks for doing this today, Daniel.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we're looking at a 64,500 US Bitcoin price right now. We're seeing a little bit of dip, but we've seen, we've seen like, the tech markets kind of rallying a little bit behind Nvidia, but we've seen a little bit of dip in Bitcoin. What are your thoughts? Is anything happening right now? Any triggers, or are we just seeing some sort of, price correction right now?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. Yeah, who knows? I mean, you see the trends from this. That usually there's a bit of consolidation after the halving, and then hopefully towards the end of the year it'll start to tick up, and we'll get a better price action. But I mean, I try not to focus on that too much. My coins are in cold storage, and they'll sit there for a while. That's the plan.
No, that's definitely part of my plan as well. So, like I was saying in just my introduction there, that my first time at the Bitcoin conference, and I'm actually a little bit surprised that I think you said that this was only the second year that the Canadian Bitcoin conference has been going on. So I guess
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, was there any sort of national Bitcoin meetup before this, or from your knowledge, are you the kind of first to kind of put this forth in Canada?
Yeah, I mean, there's big meetups. As far as I'm aware, I've talked to a few of the guys. Quite big meetups out there. They're getting kind of numbers in the range of 100 to 200. And even things like the Sats market that's come about with BTC sessions is doing that now. Actually, Dave Bradley, who's one of the speakers and someone we kind of converse with quite a lot and talk to from I think he's in Calgary. Dave does the Bitcoin Rodeo, and the Bitcoin Rodeo has been going for quite a long time. I think it's about 6 or 7 years now. Um, but yeah, to my knowledge, there hasn't really been a national conference or national kind of get together. Outside of that. But I think in Eastern Canada, that was something that when we started this whole thing we realized, or we wanted to do something that the states had their conference obviously, and over the past few years there's been a lot of newer conferences that have come online, and we just wanted to kind of do something that was more local to us and more relevant to eastern side of Canada. And there's 10 million people or 11 million people in the GTA, and 6 million people in Quebec, and the majority of Canadians are this side of New York, eastern side of New York. So we thought it'd be a good opportunity to do that.
Yeah, and I'm certainly glad that you did. It was a pretty awesome conference, and looking forward to next year's as well, and trying to be a bigger part of it as the years go by. Do you think the success of Bitcoin has any dependence on these communal meetups, or what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, totally. I think I mentioned in one of the other interviews I did, it was like 250 people or so. This year we're sitting just over 400, I think, and obviously the price action. Well, we started it in the bear market, so I think the price was around 17,000 US when we kind of started, and we were a bit nervous, to be honest, because and if who's the other organizer, or one of the other organizers, her and her partner Nicole, they run events all the time, and events aren't cheap, and they're risky and expensive, and time consuming, and so running it at that point, and we were like the first year we had some challenges. We were, obviously you're starting from scratch. We had contacts. We got some help from Greg Foss and Brad Mills, and some of the other good Canadian Bitcoiners, and Francis from Bow Bitcoin, and but relatively, we were relatively unknown and didn't have big contacts, or weren't a big player in the Bitcoin market or Bitcoin space. Yeah, it was a bit of a risk, but then coming into the end of last year and into this year, obviously with the price uptick, we see lots more interest. We're able to get lots more, support when you're looking for sponsorship and companies who want to be part of that as well. So yeah, price action plays a huge part. So we're hoping that continues, but we're trying to make it so that it's not just that we don't want to have just people in for price action, but we want people in for the right reasons.
Definitely. And I think your event is, from what my observation, seems like it's attracting obviously like people that are very philosophically motivated. You're not getting the average investor or owner of Bitcoin. I think like everyone I'm meeting there is like, they're like me, they're doing a podcast, or they got an exchange, or they're in the space, they're making crafts, like they're in the space.
Yeah.
But I think every cycle we're gaining more and more of these philosophically motivated Bitcoiners. So I think that will only grow year over year. So, it's good to get early on these types of things. So be interesting to just watch it grow and see what happens next year. How long you been around the Bitcoin space for?
I've been around the Bitcoin space for about, let's see, 2016, 2017, I guess. When you say that, everyone's like, oh, no, you must have. Everybody
He's a
attributes
billionaire.
that point to your net worth. But no, it's, I probably, similar story to some other people. Um, got in, looked, or started looking around, started hearing things. Actually, my first introduction was with Max Kaiser. So I used to work. I was in Whitby, Ontario. I'm not sure you probably know the area, but the I was working there, and I was working in engineering. So my background is mechanical engineering, but a lot of time you'll be kind of designing, working on builders. So I'd be listening to podcasts and shows. Max Kaiser had the show called the Kaiser Report, which was based out of the UK. No, I don't even know how I got on there. I think it was through RT or some alternative media, or maybe Joe Rogan or one of those kind of podcasts. But in the that's almost 10 years ago now. But so anyway, listen to Max Geyser, and I was interested in his views. I mean, he has a quite in my opinion, a really good view on the markets and how manipulated things are and how things work, and he communicated that well. And he started off in silver, and he was trying to kind of short the silver market. And I had bought some silver as well, and I was kind of like, well, this is, he's right. But I think eventually, I think he realized that it was too manipulated, or there was too much paper silver going around. But yeah, I think he moved on to Bitcoin, and that's when I kind of really started to take note. And I had a friend actually, or sorry, one of my cousin's friends or cousin's husband, who he lives in Toronto, and he had mined some Bitcoin, and I was kind of sitting watching it with him, and he had like a few Bitcoin anyway. So and he was mining it, and we were watching the price, and we were watching it like 300 and 400, and I was kind of like, do you think it's going to go to 1,000? Yeah, I don't know, and then it crashed. I remember, sitting up at a cottage, and I was kind of hungover before kids. We were looking, going, look, we should just, we should go all in on this, and we didn't at that time, but I started to see value in it because I'm from Ireland originally, and my wife's from Quebec, and we moved to Canada back in after the great financial crash, actually in 2008. Um, and then we had kids in Toronto and stuff, and then so I saw I saw a financial crisis there. I saw kind of the issues they were having, but I still had friends back in Ireland who were passing money and sending. He would buy something for me or buy something for my family or whatever, and I would send Bitcoin. So back then, I was kind of sending it and using, downloading the Bitcoin Core and looking at how it works and doing all that sort of stuff. So that was kind of my introduction to it. And then, obviously, probably with like a lot of other people, when the price action goes up, then you start to take notice again and you start to look into it a bit more. But yeah, I kind of, I guess, really only in the past, probably since 2018, 2019. And I did some stupid things as well in the early days, probably the same as everybody else, trying to kind of dabble in shit coins and try to loan your Bitcoin and all that sort of stuff. And eventually, most of us lose at that game. But yeah, so I've been around a little bit and seen the ups and downs. But yeah, that's kind of my story in Bitcoin, and when I started to get into it back then, probably 2016, 2017.
That's fair. I mean, I came into 2017 too, right as the price hit 4,000 for the first time, and I definitely I got into Bitcoin first, but then it was like a shitcoin extravaganza.
Yeah,
ICOs almost basically had to start over in 2018, but luckily I've had
yeah,
conviction. I've had conviction that way, so I've just kind of been stacking away.
yeah.
You work in you work in technology as well though, and you said you come from this you come in, you have a engineering perspective. Can you tell us a little bit about more about your day job?
Yeah, so my fiat job is studied in, actually, it was around 2007. I got my degree. My wife, or my girlfriend at the time back in Belfast, we were just traveling and working and having fun or whatever, and doing different things. I was in a job in 2008 when the great financial crash happened, and the company were laying off workers, and I was like, look, I've been in this job 2 years, like I'm only 20, 21. I'll like give me a couple of £1,000 and I'll go to Canada, and we'll do something else, because they were laying off kind of guys who had families and guys who had mortgages and stuff like that. And I was like, this is not good. But anyway, so I mechanical engineering degree. We came to Canada. I continued studying kind of renewable energy and energy management. I did a master's in it. So I was kind of, really interested in the energy side and energy sector. And I eventually got into like building services and building design for consulting engineering, really is the main focus. And then, I've kind of a decent career in Canada in working in designing and working kind of different jobs, consulting, management roles in government at the municipal level, and then kind of school boards and stuff like that, managing facilities. So, bit of a varied career where you kind of, once you get to a certain point in engineering, you generally move into management. But yeah, so when I started to look into Bitcoin mining, and the network is backed by, and the network effect and all that sort of stuff, Bitcoin really kind of hit home for me with the end, because you start to attribute everything, and through my education and my work life and different things, then you start to attribute everything to energy. And energy is how much, and the storage of energy, and the efficiency of energy, and all the things that we talk about in Bitcoin. And obviously it relates, it relates in the basic engineering principles of electricity and water and air, and the energy required for those things. But that relates also to the volume of money, and the velocity of money, and all those terms that they talk about, and the efficiency of that, and skimming off the top, and all that. So there's synergies there when you kind of look at both systems. And Bitcoin obviously, like, is that in my role, we always talk about energy efficiency. You want to be as efficient as possible. Buildings need to be as efficient as possible, and systems need to be as efficient as possible. And you don't want really any losses. And when you look at Bitcoin from a monetary perspective, that's the same. It can transition through time with very little losses. So it's really interesting how those two kind of give. My background has given me that perspective in Bitcoin.
No, it's a very interesting, way to come into the space. I think it's lucky like that you're not lucky, but like it's awesome that you have an engineering, look at it, and you can kind of understand and see where it's going, and often gives you more conviction. I mean, like for those folks that don't have any of that background, you may be motivated just as much, but maybe not have as much of an understanding of how everything works. So it's awesome to speak to guys like you who've been around and looking at the technology develop. What would you say, like, would you have any criticism on Bitcoin, and like where do you think it needs to be developed the most right now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not super technical. I'm not too much into that. You hear rumblings about forks and hard forks and soft forks and different things, and it's I don't know if I have any concerns. Obviously, as the network grows, as long as things are being done for the right reasons. If there are any like I wouldn't be opposed to any forks. But as long as they're improving, if Bitcoin, people say that Bitcoin is perfect money, but I mean, can it be improved? Can it be made better in the future? I don't have the answer to that, but no, I think you know it's lasted, or we're in, what are we now, 15 years nearly, aren't we? We're 15 years in.
Yeah.
I think we're 15. Yeah, I mean, like, people, there hasn't been too many changes. The things are going well. I mean, the network's growing exponentially. Like, I think we're as good as we are, as good as we're going to get at this point, and hopefully that continues. I think if it's if the network keeps growing the way it's growing, and uh, the philosophies around Bitcoin keep growing, and all the other monies kind of die, we'll start to see that Bitcoin will rise to the top. But I don't have any criticisms from a technical perspective at this point. We'll see. That could change maybe in the future.
I was just kind of pivoting back to the conference. What was your biggest takeaways from this year, and maybe compared to the first year compared to the second year? And is there anything maybe that stood out this year that you guys figured out or learned that you may want to improve in future years?
Yeah, well, maybe before I answer that, have you got any criticisms or anything you would like that, or any feedback?
Um, well, for me, it was beautiful in Montreal, the days that we were there. I think we got really blessed with the weather, and I think it was like the
Yeah,
first couple nice days that we had. So I was like, I kind of want to be outside too at the same time.
yeah,
So I was like jumping in and then coming out, grab a coffee, like getting some fresh air, go for a walk a little bit, and kind of jumping back in.
yeah,
So I don't know, maybe like an outdoor component would be cool.
yeah,
And then any other criticisms? That's the one that comes first to mind. I think we spoke a little bit about this on the Twitter space. Now I just can't recollect uh, what I was saying, but maybe I'll put it back on you now.
yeah. No, it's uh, obviously. Listen, we um, the learning curve is quite steep. The one thing that we've talked about recently, I think, and I like you said, I think I've mentioned a few of these on the Twitter Spaces, but um, we it's a hard work doing it's a lot of energy. Going back to what I was saying before, but there's a lot of energy we put into that to get it to where it needs to be. And then as you grow, it becomes more and more, more energy required to manage it. Because you have more people, more staff, more volunteers, more sponsors, more speakers. So that's a challenge, and that's a bit of a learning curve. But we're trying to, I think, for next year, we're going to try and automate a lot of that stuff. Set up forms, set up, processes a little bit, so that we can kind of manage and make that more efficient, and try to maximize our time, or make sure we're doing the right things for the conference itself. Like, the one big thing that um, the feedback that we got was, I mean, the venue was beautiful. You probably saw the venue, inside where the speakers were. The vendor space was good as well. And there was a good flow, like people could move throughout, and then go to the Rialto Hall up the stairs. But that was, really, really a big step up from just having the hotel vibe. So, when we were in the Chelsea and Toronto in the first year, people kind of, we got that feedback that people were like, it's a hotel vibey conference. I think when we moved it to that venue, the energy level and the kind of enjoyment, I think, really ratcheted up quite a bit. So people were quite happy about that. Things we kind of wanted to keep the same. Like the first year, we had a good mixture of speakers, a good mixture of topics. Like you said, there's um, uh, the not just the technical element to it and the Bitcoin price go up, but there's other elements. We had the Freedom Convoy panel, and we had talks about why people are leaving Canada, tax implications and regulations around people leaving Canada, regulations around Bitcoin. So we had good variety. So I think people like that, that we have good range of speakers and a good range of topics. And then the other kind of feedback that we're getting from this year is we started last year with the conference. Just the conference, we didn't really have time or didn't really have the network to be able to provide side events. But, as we've grown now, Corey from Hodler's Official had helped us, and the guys from Panties for Bitcoin helped out with setting up a hockey game. And I mean, the feedback from the hockey game was amazing. People really loved it. Loved kind of coming together and playing hockey, and the a bit of chirping, a bit of bit of that interaction around it with Brandon from Green Candle as well. That added a really nice element to it as well, where it's not just a one or a couple of days, where you're stuck in a room. There's the social aspect to it as well, and the enjoyment, and it's a really fun weekend. So I think we're going to try and grow that a little bit. Look at, I've been to Madeira. I was hoping to go to Prague, but I didn't get to go. But they do like Bitcoin walk up the mountains, and they do like, Bitcoin Madeira had a whole kind of week of side events where people were doing different things, and a lot of the speakers stayed on and did those. So that adds a lot to it as well, where it's not just a, get in, get out conference. It's a, it's like a retreat almost, so we'll try to look at that and see what we have for capacity for building on that. But yeah, that's, that's a couple of things that have, we've tried to make better from the last year to this. The other thing would be the live streaming. Helpful for me personally. Like I don't get a chance to watch any of the panels because you're kind of running around making sure things are, where they should be and
Right.
what's happening. So I've been watching back some of the panels and just listening and taking in a lot of content. But I think really that element ratcheted up a lot as well. We had like 5,000 or 6,000 on at one point during one of the days, and it's just like the production value that the guys at Simply Bitcoin provide. And the news desk that Nico had, he's been putting snips out on Twitter and through his social media channels on with some of the speakers. Like it's amazing stuff. So it really kind of, I think that'll help bring increase, maybe for next year, where people are seeing, right, here's who's there. Keep reminding them who was at the conference, and get the message out to people more. So those few things really helped this year.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm really impressed by Simply Bitcoin, and they were like they had the whole feed on their channel, right? And
Yeah.
I think it was I sent Joel, was it Joel Lightbound, the MP,
Yeah.
who had a talk there on the current political situation with Bitcoin in Canada, and I'd sent him a snippet of the video, and then he sent me a nice message back and just asked if I had the full copy, but I said I don't, but here you go. It's right on Simply Bitcoin. You can, snip you can get the whole thing if you want. So
Exactly.
that's awesome that you guys had that. And I think, they did a really good job, and having them back for next year is going to be awesome again. And I met Nico. Actually, I've had Nico on the podcast a long time ago, maybe like 2 years ago. And to meet him in real life, he was super cool, like very down to earth, I would say. Which was cool. I've met I had a few different folks that have been on the pod at the conference there, and Brad Mills, Eric Yakes, and a few others, Phil Champagne. So it was really cool for me to go there and I meet a whole bunch of them all in one spot. And I didn't realize, looking back, I'm like, oh, how many these people that I've actually spoke to are actually Canadian, which was super cool as well. Yeah. So like when you're just to kind of just go into a little bit more, like what are you doing when you're not working, when you're not doing Bitcoin stuff? Do you have any extracurricular activities, dogs, a family, maybe like to snowboard? I don't know.
Yeah, no, snowboard. I ski a little bit. My wife's Swiss originally, so she takes me skiing every now and again. But yeah, we have 2 kids, and a dog, and a house. Kind of takes up between the job and the kids. My kids play soccer and play sports a lot. and then we try to keep active and do different things. Go for walks and uh, hiking and going to the beach and that sort of stuff. So we're a busy family, but yeah, I obviously being kind of Canadian or being Irish originally, and being Canadian, I didn't get into the hockey too much when I moved to Canada. I became a Toronto or a Canada soccer team fan, and Toronto FC. Yeah, no, we yeah, I have a couple of kids. The kids keep me busy
Yeah.
between working and the we do a lot of traveling as well. My mom's still in Ireland, so we go back there quite a lot. Yeah, it's hectic with the kids, but soccer and sports is fun. So yeah, that's it. So apart from that, we kind of between those conferences for different countries in Canada, and yeah, we're just busy all the time.
Yeah, no, I bet. What for next year? Do we know where the Bitcoin conference is going to be next year?
Yeah, well, we haven't announced it. We basically it's like this, the crescendo when you do the when you do the conference. It's all this build up. You're talking to each other every day, and you're like, okay, is this done? Is this done? Is this done? And then you get up there, and then between the four of us, myself, Manuela, Nicole, and Plate Liquor, who you've probably seen online as well. So between the four of us, we don't want to look at each other for a couple months after. But so we haven't got together yet to decide. We're closing out some things, but we're I guess it's going to depend on a few things. Probably the feedback. We've put out some questionnaires to see if we get some feedback, and then what we anticipate for growth in numbers as well. So we're just gathering information at the moment, and then we'll kind of make a decision hopefully in the next couple of months and see how it goes.
Hey everyone, this is Brad Mines signing off. A massive shout out to Daniel Carlin for joining us today. It was an awesome conversation, and we're excited to see what the Bitcoin conference brings next year. If you're looking to dive into Bitcoin, head over to our website to get started. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts to stay up to date with all our latest content. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.